Electric vehicles are famous for having non-conventional brakes that are known as regenerative braking. But how do these work, and how do they actually wear down quicker than you think? Some people think that EV brakes basically never wear out, that they are fully superior to the traditional brakes that we have in most motor cars, but it's not quite that simple. I'll explain why here on the channel as always. So for this video, I'm going to call them regen brakes now because it's much easier to say, let's be honest here. You know what I'm talking about though. Regen braking reduces the everyday use of friction brakes, yet it changes how and when those brakes are loaded. This shift creates a pattern that can increase wear despite fewer total braking events. In a petrol vehicle, friction brakes slow down the car through steady pressure, which spreads heat and mechanical load across the hundreds of small applications. In an EV, much of that gradual braking is handled by the motor, so the physical brakes remain idle for longer periods. When they are finally needed, though, they often face sudden and concentrated forces. Regen braking systems slow the vehicle by converting kinetic energy into electrical energy. The motor acts as a generator and produces resistance that decelerates the car. This process handles a large share of low and medium speed braking, which means that the friction brakes see fewer gentle applications. The lack of regular contact prevents the pads and rotors from maintaining a clean, uniform surface. Small amounts of rust, dust, and residue accumulate during the periods of inactivity. When the friction brakes are eventually engaged, these contaminants reduce the contact quality between the pad and the rotor. The first few braking events scrape this material off in a single moment, which increases the heat and surface wear. The transition between regen and friction braking also changes the mechanical load on the system itself. When the driver presses the pedal harder than the regen system can handle, or when regen is limited by battery state, the friction brakes activate instantly. This transfers the full braking force onto the pads and rotors in a fraction of a second. The load arrives as a single spike rather than a gradual increase, which produces higher temperatures and localized pressure on the pad surfaces. Regen braking also allows long periods of minimal friction use during normal driving. The components remain cool during these stretches, then face sudden heat when the friction brakes intervene. This rapid thermal change contributes to glazing, which occurs when pad material heats up quickly and forms a smooth, hardened layer. Glazing reduces braking efficiency and forces the pads to work harder during later applications, which accelerates wear. The combination of inactivity, contamination, sudden load spikes, and rapid temperature changes creates a wear pattern that differs from conventional vehicles. Even though the friction brakes appear to be used less often, the conditions under which they operate are often more severe. Which leads to higher wear rates in many real-world driving environments. Something else to bear in mind as well is the weight. EVs in general are a lot heavier than their petrol-powered equivalents, so that's part of it as well. If you have more mass, you need more energy to slow down. Therefore, the brakes are more likely to be worn down because of that, even though a lot of the time it's just going to be that regen braking. It's not going to be traditional friction braking. But conversely, despite everything I've just said, in general, I do hear from most people who drive an EV that they need to replace their brakes less often, that these people have driven 75, 80,000 miles on a single set of brakes, which is impressive. But guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's preferable, regen braking or traditional friction braking? What do you prefer personally? If you drive an EV, what lines up with reality? Is it worse to have these regen brakes, so they need to be replaced more often, or do traditional brakes do a better job? And do traditional brakes do a better job? I want to hear what you have to say on this one either way. Like, share, comment, subscribe. As always, guys, have a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.